hospitality, farming, history and culture, public events, recreation, Delta food, and the arts. Tune into Delta Flows on KXVS, the voice of Stockton, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at KXVS Radio.
This is Tom Patty, a San Joaquin County Supervisor. Join us weekly for our local reality show. We talk about all things local, political, current, and real. Join us on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. Catch us at KXVS Radio or at thevoiceofstockton.org.
KXVS, the voice of Stockton, live. The voice of Stockton at Stone Soup Studio. KXVS.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff. KXVS, the voice of Stockton. That's right. It's time for Stockton SJC, your community program celebrating all things Stockton and San Joaquin County. And you're in for a treat because we have County Supervisor Bob Elliott for District Number 5 right here in the studio. How are you doing, Bob?
Fine, thank you, Governor Don. It's a pleasure to be with you here tonight.
Oh, indeed. It's a pleasure to have you. And thank you for taking the time out to come and talk with us. So you are actually the county supervisor for District 5, and that's in the South County.
Yes, District 5 is the southwestern portion of the county. It includes Mountain House, Tracy, about half of Manteca, portions of Lathrop, and then all the unincorporated county area south to the county line.
Okay, so that would be that would also include a lot of these waterways and a lot of these farming areas too, right?
Yes, agriculture is a big industry in District 5.
So now you've been, this is your second term.
Yes.
And you're completing your second term. Been in office for now going to be going on 8 years, 7 years?
Well, I've been in office 5 years now, so I'm starting my 6th year.
Yes. Okay. And that has been quite a journey. I'm sure that you would agree. A lot has been going on. I know that in particular we've had a lot going on this past year, and there's some things that I know we want to talk about. But why don't we start off with giving kind of like a state of the county? How are we doing? What's going on in District 5?
The county as a whole, I think, is in very good shape right now. We have a sustainable budget, and I think budget is a very important thing to put a priority on, because if your budget gets away from you, you're really in trouble.
Right.
So that's one thing I'm especially proud of that we've done over the 5 years I've been on the Board of Supervisors. In fact, starting with 2014, the year I was previously chairman of the Board of Supervisors, in that year we attained a structurally balanced budget for the first time in the previous 6 years.
Wow.
And structural balance means that you have sufficient revenue coming in to pay the expenses going out without any creative financing and borrowing from one pot of money to put it into another, because that creates other problems on down the line.
Right.
So I'm very proud of the fact that we have had a structurally balanced budget every year since then, and that's certainly a priority to continue to have one every single year. So our budget's in good shape. We've had great success, I think, in terms of improving our public safety posture in the county. Over those, since 2013, since I've been on the board, we have provided for the addition of over 130 positions in our law and justice system. That's allowed our sheriff to expand his community car program. to allow for more specific coverage with certain cars in certain parts of the county to enable faster response times and just greater awareness of the particular needs of the different parts of the county through that community car program. So we've expanded that. We've also been able to add additional deputy sheriffs, additional deputy district attorneys to allow the prosecutions to take place, and enhancements of other areas in our law enforcement and public defense areas, just to ensure that all aspects of our public safety and our law and justice system are adequately resourced. They all need to be adequately resourced in order for the entire system to work. So I think we're in very good shape there as well. We've got some things coming up in the future. We can talk about that now or at a later time as well.
Well, yeah, we could get into that, but you mentioned something that right on the onset that I thought was quite impressive. Now, you said you reached a balanced budget, and that was an unprecedented thing. It isn't really how we see governments operate. It's not as common as we would like it to be. Why was that so important, and how were you able to do that?
Well, I'd also like to mention that we did that without raising taxes.
Right.
So as I said, the important thing is to balance the revenue coming in with the expenses going out. So one thing that has helped is we have also put a high priority on economic development. So if we can improve the economy in our county, that brings in greater sales taxes. It increases the property values. We have greater usage of property, not only for residential purposes, but for business purposes, which brings in more property taxes as well. And those are two of the main sources of revenue for the county, along with fees for county services.
Right.
So by promoting the economy and promoting improvements in the economy, bringing better businesses, better jobs to our county, we have provided for a better revenue stream to help with our balancing of the budget. Then otherwise, it's a matter of prioritizing what you're going to do. It's a matter of looking at what funds you have available and prioritizing where you're going to spend those funds, and then making sure that you don't spend more than you have.
Yeah.
So that's been our philosophy, and I think that's an excellent one. I mean, really, the government should live within its means. We all have to do that individually. We have to manage our own checkbooks. So government should do the same. I think that the citizens of the county just deserve that. They expect that from their government. If they have to manage their resources, the government should manage their money responsibly as well. Because after all, a government doesn't earn money. The only way a government acquires money is by taking it from the citizens in the form of taxes, fees, etc.
Yeah.
So the least we can do is manage that money responsibly. And I'm very happy to have played a part in being able to do that over the past several years.
Yes, that's quite an accomplishment. And like I said, it's atypical. It shouldn't be. It should be the run of the mill, and it shouldn't even be a big deal. But it's quite significant. I think it's outstanding. One of the biggest issues in our community, it's been on the national spotlight. We as a community seem to be united behind the opposition to the twin tunnels. This is something that it seems like, it's such a big battle, and yet to us in our community, it looks like isn't everybody against this? It's been a monumental effort just to stay ahead of that push. And tell us a little bit about the situation with the tunnels and the county's position on it.
Yes. Well, let me just start with just saying what my personal priorities are, and my priorities match up very well with the strategic priorities that the board adopted as Board of Supervisors priorities as well.
Right.
But we've touched on some of them already. Public safety, I think that's the fundamental responsibility of government is to provide for the safety of its citizens. Second is promoting economic development, and we talked about that, the importance of that, and we can get into that more later because we've made some great progress on that front. Third is protecting our agriculture industry, because that is the largest industry in the county. It has been for years and remains so.
Right, bread and butter.
And we can't talk about protecting our agriculture industry without talking about protecting our water.
Right.
And then the fourth priority for me is the fiscal responsibility, which we've already talked about.
Right.
But back to protecting our agriculture, our water rights, and our water. A big part of that is fighting to preserve the ability of the Delta to provide water, not only for our farmers, but also for our communities, for our cities as well.
Right.
Because certainly farms can't survive without an adequate amount of water.
Exactly.
It's just not possible to raise sufficient crops without irrigation.
Right.
Here in this part of the country. So we need that water, and we need to be able to manage it ourselves.
Right.
So our point of view, the whole time these twin tunnels have been proposed, is that we think it's a very bad idea.
Yeah.
It would devastate the health of the Delta itself, and if the Delta's health is devastated, then the ability of our farmers to make a living farming, to provide the food and fiber for the rest of the state and the rest of the country that we do, would be greatly diminished. Our overall prosperity would be affected as well. So we've made it a key point, a key part of our legislative platform to oppose those twin tunnels. And you have to remember now, this is the governor's pet project.
Right.
The price of these tunnels the price estimates for these tunnels has varied wildly over the years. We were told one thing, but the estimates of what it would actually cost have been greatly higher.
Right.
And I think we are making some headway now, in part as part of our membership in the Delta Counties Coalition, the 5 counties that either are next to or part of the Delta, have banded together for years to promote the health of the Delta. So as part of our membership there, and also as part of individual advocacy, we have for a long time promoted the fact that these tunnels are just not a good idea. They are not. They don't pencil out in terms of farmers and communities getting their money's worth.
Right.
We have passed that message to other water agencies on other parts of the state. And we're starting to get some traction. I think we're really beginning to see some progress there, where other parts of the state are beginning to see that it won't really pencil out for them either.
Right.
The cost of those tunnels is going to greatly exceed the benefits that the state receives from them.
Right.
We had a professor at University of the Pacific who did a cost-benefit analysis separate from the one that the state had done, because really, by many estimates, the cost-benefit analysis that the state did was rather superficial in terms of what it looked at.
Right.
So Professor Michael did his own cost-benefit analysis and came to the conclusion that for every $1's worth of benefit for those tunnels, there was at least $1.50 worth of cost.
Right.
So that's just not a good proposition if you're losing money like that.
Right.
So there are many other agencies that are beginning to agree. In fact, in some recent voting that has taken place across the state, there are several agencies who have voted for the time being not to approve their participation in funding the governor's Twin Tunnels program. So I think that's real progress right there. If we are convincing others that there are better alternatives, I think we're making real headway.
Sure.
And I think there are a lot of things that we can agree on. So that's been one of our efforts as well, is to try to talk to our counterparts in other parts of the state and talk about what areas we can agree on, what actions can we take that will actually improve the supply of water, actually make more water available for the state, that really make lots more sense, lots more common sense,
right.
And lots more economic sense than trying to build these twin tunnels.
Right.
And another point you have to remember is that this governor who is pushing these twin tunnels is the same governor who 25 years ago was trying to convince the state that we should build a peripheral canal.
Right.
To basically do the same thing.
Right, an overland tunnel.
Yes, an above ground conveyance system. But really, that's all these twin tunnels are, is a water conveyance system. They don't add a single drop of additional water to our state's capacity. All they do is provide for moving water from the north to the south.
Right.
So in times of insufficient rainfall, insufficient snowfall, those tunnels won't do anything to make more water available.
Right.
We propose a variety of actions that can actually have a positive effect.
All right.
One obvious action is more storage. I mean,
Yes.
think about it. If we can store more water during those times when we have sufficient rainfall and sufficient snowfall to provide the runoff, if we can store that water instead of just letting it flow out to the ocean,
Right.
then we can have it for our use during those times when we have insufficient rainfall.
And the voters voted for that and approved that. And there's money for that, isn't there?
There is. In 2014, the water bond was passed by the voters. It was over $7 billion and 2.7
Billion with a B.
with a B, yes, with a B. And 2.7 billion of that was specifically designated to be used for storage projects.
Yes.
And so far, we have no storage projects that are under construction.
Wow.
So, we need to get moving on those things. We have that money that's available. It was continuously appropriated, meaning that you don't have to go back and reapprove it. It's always supposed to be there.
Right.
We just need to put it to the use for which it was intended and for which the voters voted.
Right.
And build more storage.
Right.
There are some projects that are available now, such as there's a project for a reservoir up north of Sacramento called the Sites Reservoir. There's another proposed reservoir down near the Fresno area. The name has escaped me at the moment, but there's another reservoir down there. Temperance Flats is the name of that.
Okay.
And there is a proposal to increase the capacity of Shasta Reservoir as well. Just raise the height of the reservoir, and you can increase the capacity there.
Sure.
So there are lots of proposals out there that could be put into action, that could be implemented in order to increase our capacity to store water. Other things that can be done, and San Joaquin County has started a pilot project in this regard, is to look at underground storage as well. We've started a pilot project in conjunction with East Bay Municipal Utilities District, which is a Bay Area water agency,
Right.
To look at improving the underground recharge. So the idea there is that they will provide surface water for use in lieu of use by residents here in San Joaquin County of the underground water supplies. So we will use their surface water instead of pumping water from the ground.
Right.
And that will allow our underground reservoirs, our underground aquifers, to be recharged over time.
Yes. Right now, they said that I looked at the numbers. Every year we're pulling out 14 million acre feet, and only 6 million acre feet find their way back into the aquifer. So we're losing millions of acre feet every year with the current status quo.
Right.
So something's got to be done.
Right. And so one of the obvious solutions, as we just discussed, is use more surface water. And to allow us to use more surface water, we need to have greater storage capacity for that water so that we will have water on the surface to use.
Right.
those
Makes sense.
Those are some of the things. Those are some of the common sense solutions.
Yeah,
Other
now
things
not to cut you off, but I remember we earlier last year we talked about how a lot of these farmers are switching the way that they're using water, going to the micro drip, and being more efficient as well. And that's a great component to it as well, is making a better use of the water we already use.
Yes.
Yeah, and that goes all the way up and down the state.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And that's just part of greater conservation efforts as well, making sure that you're not wasting any of the water that you're using.
Right.
Other things that we advocate for that make a lot of sense are such things as regional self-sufficiency. If each region of the state can take measures that allow it to manage its own water supplies in a way that they can take care of themselves, there will be no need for them to rely on the water from up north to provide for their needs.
Right.
And some parts of the state have begun to take measures in that regard.
Right.
Greater use of desalination is one area where that can take place.
Sure.
San Diego is a great example of that. They have established a large desalination project at Carlsbad. And that project now provides them about 10% of the water that they used to have to buy from the municipal municipal utilities district in Los Angeles.
Right.
So therefore, if they don't have to buy that water from them, if they can provide it for themselves, that's 10% of their water that they don't have to rely on water from the north to provide for their needs.
Now, that was also included in the proposal. The regional self-sufficiency was supposed to be part of every water plan from 2014 on out.
Yes.
So
regional self-sufficiency is supposed to be something that each region takes into consideration.
Right.
But those are some of the things that can be done. We can make greater use of recycled water as well. So all of those things are common sense solutions to our state's water problems that can actually make more water available for our state to use in times of insufficient rainfall and snowfall.
Right.
So those are the things that we advocate for.
Right.
These twin tunnels are just a horrendously expensive project to move water from one part of the state to another.
Right.
All it does is export the problems from one part of the state to a different part of the state.
Right. No new water. Thank you for sharing that. I know, and I'm glad to hear your explanation, because that demonstrates to all that you're well studied on this, and it's great to know that our supervisors are got their finger on the pulse and are paying attention to the issues and putting forth the research. And also, it's awesome that you're all united in support of the Delta and against the tunnels. Water rights is also tied into that issue when we talked about transporting water and talked about agriculture. And so those are also concerns that we have to address to make sure that in our region, and like you said, our number one business, our number one industry is agriculture, and that can't suffer. It will all suffer if that suffers. One of the things that you've been focusing on, and I always hear you talk about, is economic development. It must go hand in hand with your fiscal responsibility. Otherwise, you can't write the check, right? But one of the issues that we heard you talk about this past year is this VA clinic and services for veterans.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the developments there.
Yes, well, we continue to push for that project. We've been advocating for that for the past 10 years, at least. From the very beginning stages of discussion to the purchase of the land has been purchased by the Veterans Administration in French Camp, just north of our county hospital.
Okay.
So they have the land there. Now it's just a matter of getting the construction plans completed and getting the construction started. My goal is to break ground on that project before I leave. Now, the current construction plans are that tentatively they may be able to have that finished by the end of the year, so that a groundbreaking could occur either late this year or early in 2019.
Wow.
But I think that's... it's been a long time coming, and that's the least we can do for our Valley veterans, our San Joaquin County veterans, is to provide for them a facility that's reasonably accessible for them so that they can get the care they need without having to travel all the way over to the VA hospital in Palo Alto.
Right.
I mean, that turns into an all-day trip.
And it's a burden that many of them can't make. They can't get out there. There's too many, obstacles, and they suffer because they don't even get the treatment they need.
Well, yes. For many of those veterans, many of them are elderly. Some of them have disabilities. So it's a very difficult thing for them to schedule an appointment, and that's another problem, is you have to schedule it in advance so that you can actually go over there and get your treatment.
Right.
But then just to get there, with the traffic situation that we have, particularly on I-580 and the other connectors that go all the way over to Palo Alto, it turns into an all-day trip to get there, get your treatment, and come back. It's just a really poor, a really pitiful situation that our veterans are in to try to get their care. Now, we've been pushing for this project for years now, particularly since I've been on the board. I've participated in various discussions, either town hall meetings that are held. I've made trips over to Palo Alto to talk with the VA Palo Alto folks there. I've talked with the VISN 21, which is the next higher echelon above VA Palo Alto, to advocate for this project to get it done, because it's just really important for our veterans.
Right.
Now, what we've some things that the county has also done to try to provide better care for our veterans, make health care more accessible for them, is we've negotiated a contract with the subsidiary with Tri-West, the subsidiary organization that contracts for services for the VA. Okay. So we've come up with a contract with them to allow the VA to refer veterans to our county hospital in those cases in particular where the services are hard to, or where it's difficult for our veterans to get all the way over there to VA Palo Alto.
Well, that makes sense.
So we can at least, if the VA will refer them, we now have a mechanism by which we can provide that local service right here at our county hospital.
Oh, wonderful.
So we have taken some steps to do what we can in the meantime, until this new facility is actually built. But this community-based outpatient clinic is what's really needed. The location is ideal. It's right next door to the hospital, so those services and doctors that may not be available in the VA clinic itself are available right next door in the county hospital. Yeah. So it's a win-win, I think, for both the county and especially for our veterans to get this thing done. And that's certainly one of the top priorities on my list, is to make sure that we get this construction started, get this facility completed so that we can give our veterans the care that they deserve.
It's been a long time coming. You said before you go. So tell us about that now. So you're terming out of county supervisor position. So what's next after that?
Yes. Well, I'm in my second term now, second and final term, since we have a 2-term limit.
Right.
I can't run for county supervisor again. However, I just have a long history of service. I spent 30 years in the Army after graduating from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point.
Right.
So I was proud to serve my country for 30 years in the U.S. Army.
Right.
I'm now proud to serve my community in whatever way I can. So I have decided to run for state senate. That's District 5. That state senate seat includes all of San Joaquin County, a little bit of Sacramento County up as far as Galt, and Stanislaus County as far south as most of Modesto. It would include Riverbank, Salida, and about 3/4 of Modesto.
All right.
So I've decided to run for that office. I still remember the values that I learned at the military academy, the motto of the military academy. It's just 3 words. It's duty, honor, country. So those were the values by which we were expected to live, not only while we were at the military academy, but throughout our service in the armed forces. And I think those are good principles to live by today. So I intend to take those principles to Sacramento.
Nice.
And try to bring some of that sense of duty and responsibility to Sacramento.
Continuing your service.
Yes, I think we just need to bring common sense, fiscal responsibility, and accountability to our operations in Sacramento as well.
Excellent, excellent. Now that's Galgiani's seat, so it's going to be a race then, right? Because she's not going to be able to run again.
It will be a race, yes, but it won't be a race against Senator Galgiani.
Yeah.
She is also termed out. She will term out in 2020.
Right.
However, she has also filed to run for State Board of Equalization in 2018, this year.
Right.
So if she is successful in that race, if she wins, then she would have to step down from her position on the state Senate. And that would open that seat then for a special election to be held shortly after the general election in 2018. So that would mean the special election would be in early 2019.
Well, that's close.
So there is a little bit of yes, it's close. There's a little bit of uncertainty as to the actual date,
right? And depending on whether she makes it to the board,
right. So I won't be on the ballot for the 2018 election.
Okay.
But what I am campaigning for right now is the special election that will occur if she is successful in 2018. So that special election would occur in early 2019, and if she's not successful, then I would run for that seat in 2020.
2020.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's great to hear that you're not ready to hang up your hat of serving our community, and it's good that you're still sticking with the. I'm sure there's no end to the different places you could go, but you're deciding to continue to serve, and that's excellent. Now there were some issues last year, and I don't know if I mightn't be jumping around. In fact, before I want to talk about that, I want to mention that some of you out there have seen County Supervisor Bob Elliott on a billboard. The clean air, the air quality billboards.
Yes.
And the phrase I'm trying to remember is something about idling your car. Let's see, I know it's in this article, but it turns out that people may not realize, though, but idling your car produces a lot more pollution than driving it. So, yeah, avoid the drive-through. That's what it said on the billboard.
Yes.
So tell us about that campaign and it's why it was initiated and maybe its effectiveness if we have any results.
Okay. I serve as our Board of Supervisors representative to the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. Mm-hmm. So that consists of 8 counties. We are the northernmost county in that air district, and it goes all the way down to Fresno County and Kern County as well, all the way to the south.
Right.
So that is one of the most challenged air districts in the nation.
Yeah.
Because
it's a big valley.
Yes, it's a big valley, and also because of the meteorological conditions in that valley. The pollution from the coast, from the Bay Area, tends to blow inland, and then it settles in the San Joaquin Valley.
It doesn't keep blowing through.
Yes, no, it doesn't blow. It blows in, and it's hard to get it to blow on out.
Wow.
So the responsibility for meeting the clean air standards imposed by the Clean Air Act have fallen upon our district in rather disproportionate terms compared to other parts of the state and other parts of the country.
Sure.
Now the air district has made great strides. They have reduced over the years the amount of emissions in the county or in the valley by about 80%, and have in fact started to meet some of the most stringent requirements that were placed on the valley in the earlier days.
Right.
But unfortunately, every 5 years or so, under the Clean Air Act, it provides for a review by the EPA and by the California Air Resources Board of the current conditions and what they think the appropriate standards should be to provide for the maximum health of the residents. So invariably, what happens is every 5 years, the standards are made more stringent.
Right.
So even though we have begun to meet the early standards, the ever-increasing harshness of the standards that are imposed keep moving the goalposts farther away for us to try to be able to continue to attain those standards. So that's why we have to look at every possible way to try to reduce the amount of emissions that we have. And one of the primary places where we have emissions, and in fact this is an area that the Air Pollution Control District actually has no jurisdiction over, and that is mobile sources. So that means all of the truck traffic, all of the car traffic on our highways is actually beyond our control, our jurisdiction to control that. But that's where the majority of the pollution comes from. So what we can do is we can have these public education campaigns where we try to educate the public on some of the ways that the pollution is made worse and some of the things that we can do to try to reduce those emissions. So one of those things is an idling reduction campaign. So drive-throughs, if you're sitting in drive-throughs, I mean Starbucks is Starbucks, it's a very popular place, but it has huge long lines through their drive-throughs every morning. So if you could just park your car and walk in there, you could reduce a lot of emissions. The same thing happens at schools.
Yes, that's a big issue.
Particularly, you have families who will take their kids to school and drop them off, and then in the afternoon they come back and wait for them to pick them up. Well, most of the time they're sitting there with their cars idling while they're waiting. So we urge them to turn the car off. If you're going to wait, that's fine. Just don't idle the whole time. All of those things can reduce the amount of emissions. And we're in a condition right now. The things that we most are attempting to reduce are what we call particulate matter, the very fine particulate matter, 2.5 microns or less. And that's typically what you'll find in dust. And then the other thing is ozone. We try to reduce the amounts of ozone. So you mentioned the billboard that had avoid the drive-through. That was one campaign, particularly during the summer months. Now, as we're in the winter months, we have people that are using their wood-burning hearths, their wood-burning fireplaces, or their wood-burning stoves, either for heat or just for enjoyment. So we have another campaign called Check Before You Burn. So on certain days when the air quality is not up to optimal standards, there is actually a ban on burning of wood in fireplaces like that. There are no burn days. So that's why the name of the program is called Check Before You Burn, and that's why that's on that billboard, is just to remind people that you can check either through an application on your cell phone or on your computers. You can check what the air quality is for your region that day. And we now have systems in place that the Air Pollution Control District is implementing to monitor and report on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis now as to what the air quality is. So we are especially encouraging schools to monitor that system as well. Because if they can monitor, they can determine whether it's healthy for the kids to be outside participating full speed in sports on that day, or in recesses, that sort of thing, outdoor activities. And we've continued to refine that system so that now it is more honed in to individual neighborhoods rather than just say the county as a whole. Because if you have a system where you just monitor the county as a whole, then you have to take the worst reading in the entire county, and that's the level for the whole county for that day. But that may not be accurate in some parts of the county. So So we continue to refine that process so it gives a better estimate of what the air quality is, a better actual measurement of what the air quality is in each neighborhood.
All right, it's fascinating.
So we have many ways that you can monitor that and do your part to check before you burn, avoid idling.
Yes.
and little things like that.
And that includes burning in fields and big piles of
yes. In order to do a controlled burn like that, one would need to get a permit.
Right.
So then, along with that permit, would be the requirement that you wouldn't be able to do it on an unhealthy day.
Now, earlier we talked, and you were making sure that our timing was right because you were at a meeting, and we've been here in our community, been noticing the travelways, the corridor opening up, and the ACE train service increasing, and even bus service. And so you were at a meeting today, an inaugural meeting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. Well, today was the inaugural meeting of the Tri-Valley San Joaquin Valley Regional Rail Authority.
Right.
This authority was created by some recent legislation, some state legislation, and the purpose of this new authority is to come up with a plan and a way to finance it and a way to construct it as well, a plan to connect the ACE train, the Altamont Corridor Express commuter train, with the Bay Area Rapid Transit Authority, the BART trains.
Right.
Right now we have those two systems, but they don't really connect.
Right.
So their efficiency is degraded by the fact that you can't easily transfer from one to the other.
Right.
When you're making your commute from the Central Valley over here into the Bay Area, and then back, of course,
right.
In the evening. So we have a huge commute crowd. Each day there are at least 65,000 commuters that go across the Altamont.
Right.
And of course, when the economic times get better and more people have jobs, you'll have more people commuting over to where more of the jobs are.
Right.
So as the traffic gets worse, then you have more slow traffic, stop and go traffic,
right.
more idling while you're on the road,
right.
and that also detracts from the air quality.
Right.
So if we can take some of that traffic and put it on a commuter train or on some type of a rapid transit system like that, then we can improve not only can we improve the quality of life for those people that don't have to sit in traffic for so long every day,
yes.
we can also improve the quality of the air that we all breathe. So it's a win-win situation in that regard as well. So today was the inaugural meeting. There are representatives from both cities and counties, both here in San Joaquin County as well as Alameda County, and several cities, and then a couple of public agencies as well, such as the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission is represented there. Also, BART is represented there as well. So over the next year and a half, we will be conducting a feasibility study to see what is the best way to do that, what is the best way and what is the best location to connect those two systems, the ACE train and BART.
Now, I know we're running close to our end time. There was a couple things I just wanted to bring up, just because I know that people have questions about it, and I know that as the year changed, the laws changed, and there's cannabis is now legal for recreational use, but the counties and the municipalities have to figure out a way to regulate it and have to figure out how to deal with it. It's a new issue. What is the county doing to address that?
The current phase of the county's activities are to explore the best ways to try to regulate that activity. The laws and the voter initiative that were passed provide for individual cultivation of up to 6 plants per household. So that's right in the law. So up to 6 plants per household can be cultivated by every household if they so chose. So we have to come up with a reasonable way to regulate that.
Right.
And then we have to look at commercial activity as well. So what the county has done now is it has engaged a consulting firm with experience in that regard to come up with some reasonable solutions, some reasonable proposals for what may be the best way to do that.
All right.
So that's where we are right now.
Excellent, excellent. And one thing I wanted to mention, and it didn't mean it to be the final thing, but I remember last year there was a kind of a scary subject that came up having to do with the Tracy firefighters' inability to go out, not because they weren't capable, but there was some legal reasons why they weren't able to go out on emergency service calls, certain types. But that issue, it was resolved. And if you could just kind of go into that a little bit, because when I was reading the article, the mayor of Tracy and the fire chief, they both mentioned you as a key component in resolving that issue. So tell me a little bit about how that worked out.
That issue had to do with the number of calls and the types of calls that the Tracy Fire Department was able to respond to in terms of 911 type responses. Right. So under the old system, they were dispatched to about 90% of the calls, depending upon their severity.
Right.
And the severity was determined based on the information that was provided to the dispatch person there who took the call.
Sure.
The problem was, and that's a reasonable way to do it. You want to make sure you retain your fire services so that they can respond to a fire if you have one. But you also want to make them available to respond to emergency type calls as well, because they also have trained personnel who are able to provide that initial response, that initial first response that may save someone's life until the ambulance can get there and actually transport them to a hospital.
Right.
So the issue came about because in some cases, what was initially communicated to the 911 operator may have indicated a lower response level, but over time, the condition of the patient may worsen. Sure. So that then there was a more acute need, a need for someone to be there right away.
Right.
So that was the real basis of the issue.
It was a loophole.
Right. Yeah. Somewhat. Yeah. And Tracy was in somewhat of a special situation. Because throughout the county, we have a complete network of ambulance services and fire capabilities to respond to these calls. But Tracy is sort of out on the end of the line.
Right.
If it's someplace like, let's say, Lathrop.
Right.
Okay. If they have an emergency situation, an ambulance could be diverted from Tracy, from Manteca, from Ripon, from Stockton, all kinds of options there. But Tracy was kind of out on the end of the line.
Right.
And if the ambulances that were supposed to be covering Tracy had been called to another place or were in the process of delivering a patient to a hospital, and that's another issue right there, is the ambulance, once it takes a patient to a hospital, can't just drop it off. They have to continue to provide care to that patient until the hospital is able to accept it.
Right.
So sometimes that can lead to delays, and Tracy was really in a special situation there. So I advocated on their behalf as well to allow them to have their fire department respond to all emergency calls that came in.
Wonderful.
I think there may still be a very few that are so obviously not in need of a quick response that they may not be dispatched to, but the vast majority, virtually all of the calls that come in now, the fire service in Tracy is now dispatched as well.
Wonderful.
And I think that is just a common sense solution
Sure.
to that question. I mean, they've got a special situation. The idea is to provide the best service that we can, the quickest service that we can. When somebody has a medical emergency, you want help as quickly as you can get it there.
Yes.
And so if the fire department can get there sooner than the ambulance, that's great.
Yeah.
Get the fire department there first.
Sure. That's when seconds count, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So that was what we did. We came up with a solution to that problem, and
Wow.
I think that has been a good solution for the community as a whole.
Problem solved. That's very important. I know in particular, people need to have confidence when they dial 911. And so if there was any doubt, hopefully this, at least alleviated that, so they know that they do have access to immediate and very local, because firehouses are the closest, proximity emergency responder in general, unless somebody's passing by. So
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That's excellent.
If I can, I
Yes,
would
sir.
like to just touch a little bit more on economic development, if we have time.
Yeah, let's do that. We
Okay.
got at least 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's do that.
As I said, that was one of my priorities.
Yes.
But we haven't really talked much about that yet. But we've made a great effort in the county to attract quality businesses to come and do business here, and we've made that pitch particularly over in Silicon Valley.
Right.
One of the things we've tried to advertise San Joaquin County as is Greater Silicon Valley, just kind of an extension of Silicon Valley.
All right.
And we try to encourage companies who are over there, if they want to expand their business, or even if there's a new entrepreneur who wants to establish a business somewhere, we are encouraging them to come and do it in San Joaquin County. Because if we can get quality businesses here in San Joaquin County, that brings quality jobs. And if we have quality jobs right here, that includes that improves the quality of life for all our residents. That allows people to work here at home rather than having to drive to the Bay Area to find a job.
Right.
And it just increases those sources of revenue that I mentioned earlier as well.
Yeah.
There are many companies that I'm sure people have heard of that are now located here in San Joaquin County. Amazon is a great example.
Right.
Others that have located here, that have located major operations here, are FedEx.
Right.
Tesla
Right.
now has an advanced manufacturing center over in Lathrop for their electric cars. Medline, a provider of medical supplies and services,
Right.
now has a major center here as well. But let me talk about Amazon just a little bit, just
Yes.
to show the effect that one company like that can have on our local economy.
Okay.
So back in 2013, Amazon opened their first fulfillment center in the eastern part of Tracy. They had a facility of about 1 million square feet.
Right.
And it was projected then they had just under 1,000 employees.
Right.
Well, now that facility has continued to grow. It has employed more and more people, so that now that facility all by itself employs about 3,500 people, just that one facility.
Wow.
And they've had so much business that they've now opened another 1 million square foot facility on the other side of town, on the west part of Tracy, out in the International Park of Commerce. Wow. And that facility employs another 1,500 people. So those two together are about 5,000 jobs that Amazon has brought just to that area.
One company, and those are good paying jobs.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
They are. And then they continue to make news. They've also announced, I think they've broken ground already on a facility in Stockton that is expected to provide another 1,000 jobs. They've announced another facility in Manteca that will provide another 100 or so. And they've begun to operate an air transport service for their goods out at our county airport, at the Stockton Metropolitan Airport.
Wow.
So if you go by the airport late in the afternoon, you'll see 3 Boeing 767s with the logo, the Prime Air logo on the side, which is Amazon's logo. And those 3 airplanes fly 365 days a year, bringing products in and out for Amazon.
Wow.
So that has increased the value of our airport as a profit-generating center.
Right.
It's also provided increased jobs right there at the airport as well. So just one company has had all kinds of positive effects on our local economy. And those are the kind of things that we continue to do and we continue to encourage. In fact, at our next board meeting on the 23rd of January, we will roll out a program to provide economic development incentives for companies that want to locate here in San Joaquin County. This is something I have been in favor of for years. I first inquired about that back in 2014 when I was chairman the first time. And I'm very happy to see, I'm really excited to have us finally have an economic development incentive package that we can offer companies to further encourage them to locate their business here in San Joaquin County. That's going to be another win-win, not only for the businesses that do it, but also for the residents of San Joaquin County.
It's going to be a win for our air quality, too, because it's less commuting.
That's right.
All right. So, yes, County Supervisor for District 5, Bob Elliott, thank you for spending this time with us. You are invited back anytime you have something to share. Let us know what's going on, if there's news, if there's things that we need to be paying attention to coming around the bend, if announcements, whatever. We're at your service. And thank you for your service.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here today. I always enjoy telling the good news story about the great things that are happening here in San Joaquin County and our efforts, and particularly my efforts, to bring common sense and fiscal responsibility to everything that we do. Thank you very much.
San Joaquin County Supervisor Bob Elliott, thanks you again. You've been listening to Stockton SJC right here on KXVS, the voice of Stockton, broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube at KXVS Radio. Again, want to thank County Supervisor Bob Elliott for spending his time with us, and we look forward to speaking with him again. Stay tuned for more quality programming right here on KXVS, the voice of Stockton.